It's August. Training camp is in full swing. Excitement is brewing, and it's almost time to crack open those cold ones with the boys. Until that first kickoff, it's prediction season. And there's a particular team under the microscope. And it's this particular team that I believe is the most difficult team to predict this year. That UT squad from the SEC. No, not that one. This one. The newcomers. Them boys from Austin, Texas. And it's the pressure, the talent, the drama, and of course the new weekly challenges they face this season that make predicting this Longhorn season very, very difficult. Today, I'm going to be sharing what I believe is going to make or break this football squad and break down each week to give you my overall prediction for the Texas Longhorns. But before we jump into it, if you enjoy this content and enjoy what you see and hear from this video, be sure to give a sub and give a like to support the channel. Thanks. So what makes it so hard to predict the Longhorn season? Well, I think there's two factors that contribute to this. The first one is, well, the SEC. Duh. Being newcomers to a new conference, and the best conference in football at that, just makes it so much more difficult to gauge the Longhorns' performance. As much as people say it doesn't matter being in a new conference, it does. Let's flash back to 2012. Missouri and Texas A&M played their first season in the SEC after their own departures from the Big 12. After 7 straight winning seasons, Missouri was slapped in the face with the toughest schedule in the country. Facing the gauntlet that they were handed in 2012, they ended up finishing 5-7. The Aggies, on the other hand, were given the 20th toughest schedule in their first season in the conference. Oh, and they had that one guy. What was it? Oh yeah, Mr. Johnny Manziel himself. In 2012, it was the Aggies that handed Bama their only loss of that season, and the A&M Aggies finished 11-2. Two teams, two different schedules, two very different results. So how do the Longhorns fare? Well, according to Sports Illustrated and CBS Sports, they have the 49th toughest schedule in the nation and the 14th toughest in the SEC coming into 2024. With a considerably easier schedule in their first season than the 2012 Tigers and Aggies, it throws a wrench in the works for predictions. And don't get me wrong, this is great news for Longhorns fans, but are we to expect similar results from the Longhorns this year as that of the Aggies with Mr. Manziel in 2012? Now, Quinn Ewers is not Johnny Manziel, and Johnny Manziel is not Quinn Ewers. They're both great in their own ways. A flashy, scrambling playmaker with Manziel and a talented pocket passer with Ewers is difficult to try to fairly compare. But to predict how Ewers is going to do this year by using how Manziel did with A&M in their first year in the SEC, then I believe it's fair to classify both of these quarterbacks as elite. S tier, for lack of a better term. And this is the second factor in why I believe it is so tough to try to predict the Longhorns' performance in 2024. Is the hype going to be too big for the offense? Are the expectations going to overwhelm Ewers? It's just something we don't know with these new opponents that they face this year. With Jonte Cook, Isaiah Bond, and Matthew Golden, Ewers has a receiving core to make some noise. UT fans should be excited knowing that Ewers may be in for a heck of a season. But now, I think it's time for some predictions. So let's go week by week, and in each of my predictions, I'm going to give you the opponent's key player to look at, the winner of the game, and I'll even try to predict a final score. In week 1, the Horns get started with Colorado State. Jack Howell, the 6'3", 215-pound safety, is going to be a key player to look at. With 2 consecutive seasons with over 100 tackles, Howell's set to make a statement in the first week against the Horns. Coach Jay Norvell, former Longhorn coach, is going to have CSU put up a good fight to start the game, but I think the second half is going to be too much for the Rams. I predict Ewers and company take this one 42-20. They start the season 1-0. This Week 2 matchup between the Longhorns and the defending national champion Michigan Wolverines is one of the most anticipated non-conference games of the season. This will be the first time these two programs meet in the regular season, and I am sure the fans at the Big House are going to be unbearable when the boys in burnt orange take the field. With a new head coach, a new quarterback, and a few key transfers, this is going to be a very different Michigan squad than the one that you watched last year carry that trophy. Nonetheless, the key player to watch for Michigan is DB Will Johnson. With a 42% completion rate and a 4.3 quarterback rating in coverage last season, Johnson is going to be a top 5 DB in the country, and he for sure is going to spell trouble for UT. Watch out for how Johnson covers Jonte Cook and Isaiah Bond. But I'm going to go back to what I said about this being a fresh Michigan team with new leadership. And because of this being a Week 2 matchup, Michigan is still going to be searching for their tempo against a top matchup. And I believe Texas is going to squeak out with a win in the Big House, 24-21. They start the season 2-0. Week 3, the Longhorns host the Little Bro UTSA Roadrunners at DKR. In a game that many Roadrunner fans will call a rivalry, I think UTSA has a huge challenge. After many vets left the team this offseason, UTSA has some soul searching to do in their first couple of weeks of the season. With this matchup in Week 3, I predict UTSA is going to have to try to use their key player, tight end Oscar Godinez, to try to do their best against the Longhorns. Oscar Godinez is a solid yards after catch tight end who the Roadrunners are going to have to depend on if they plan to keep it close. But at the end of the day, I predict the final score to be 41-17. And the Longhorns start the season 3-0. In their last game before conference play, the Longhorns will host UL Monroe. I believe this game is going to go just about how you think it will. Nonetheless, a key player to watch for ULM will be quarterback Hunter Herring, because if anything is going to happen for ULM this game, it's going to have to start with him. Longhorns take this one 48-10. They're on their way to a 4-0 start. Week 5, SEC play finally begins, and if there's any sustained challenges that the Longhorns face, they may begin to show here against tougher opponents. Mississippi State will be visiting Austin this week to take on the Longhorns, and while it's a state squad that's in rebuild mode, the Longhorns will know not to let it become a trap game. The Bulldogs are going to do their best to give Texas that welcome to the SEC moment, but they're going to have to lean on quarterback Blake Shapen to make that happen. Shapen has a couple new receivers that he can lean on, especially in Kevin Coleman, and this team looks like they're going to heavily favor the passing game. It's going to be interesting to see what Shapen can do with Coach Levy's offensive vision, and if he can attack the young Longhorn DBs. With Mississippi State in rebuild mode, and the Longhorns looking to make a statement in the SEC, Texas will take this one 30-20, making them 5-0, 1-0 in conference. Different conference, same rivalry. OU and Texas will meet Week 6 at the Cotton Bowl for the first time as members of the SEC. This is where things get interesting for the Longhorns. This is always a tricky game to try to predict. We know that each team will play some of their best football against each other. This is going to be a game played in the trenches. Oklahoma is going to have to lean in on the O-line to protect Jackson Arnold, the key player for the Sooners. A lot rides on Arnold, and if he finds his rhythm in weeks 4 and 5 against Tennessee and Auburn, then the Longhorns need to watch out. And we know Oklahoma is going to have a solid defense. It's going to try to challenge UT. A lot rides on this game, and if any team comes out flat, then there's no catching up in this competitive matchup. Because Oklahoma can come out of their games against Tennessee and Auburn having learned a lot about themselves, especially in SEC play, I'm going to take the Sooners winning this one in a close battle, and I think they hand the Longhorns the first L of the season, 35-27. The Longhorns are 5-1, 1-1 in conference. One of the most anticipated games of the season will come to us Week 7, as the Georgia Bulldogs will visit the Longhorns at DKR for a mid-October matchup. We know Georgia, we know Kirby, and they know the law. In all seriousness, this is going to have to be a game to highlight. Georgia's going to be a very strong opponent for the Horns. When they visit Austin, the Bulldogs are already going to have a road trip matchup against Bama under their belt. For the Longhorns, they're going to be coming off a very physical game against the Sooners, rushing to get their bodies back to 100% before they take on the big dogs from Athens. The Bulldog to watch this game is going to be safety Malachi Starks. The athletic and versatile DB is going to be underlined, highlighted, and circled on that scouting report. I believe Starks is going to make one or two huge plays for the Bulldogs in Austin, and he's going to be helping his team remain undefeated as they take down the Horns 33-24. Longhorns are 5-2, 1-2 in conference. Some Longhorn fans are going to be set into panic mode, but smart fans will understand that they just finished playing their toughest back-to-back matchups of the season. They visit Vandy for their Week 8 matchup, and to keep it short, Vandy is a baseball school, and we know this. Nonetheless, Vanderbilt is going to have to lean in on their defense and put up their best fight to try to stop the Texas offense. CJ Taylor, a Vandy linebacker, is going to be the key player to watch. I think he leads the Commodores in tackles this game. But no matter what Vandy throws their way, I think Ewers and company put up huge numbers to bounce back after a 2-game stump to win this game 45-14. Longhorns are 6-2, 2-2 in conference. After a bye week, the Texas Longhorns will be hosting Florida. I believe Texas will be riding on momentum from the previous game against Vandy coming into this one against the Gators. Note that the Gators this season have the toughest schedule in the nation. Billy Napier, hoping that he's still there, will come into Austin looking for a big win to try to cool down that seat underneath him. I believe the Gator to watch is not going to come from their defensive depth chart, but their offense instead. Eugene Wilson III, starting his second year at Florida, is going to be a player to watch as he looks to attack the young DB core in Austin. Nonetheless, I believe any efforts by Florida will not be enough as they conclude a tough 5-week stretch in Austin by giving this game up to the Longhorns 35-24. Texas will end Week 10 7-2, 3-2 in conference. The Texas Longhorns, above 500 at this point in conference play, will be riding high, and their play will be sound coming into this matchup against the Razorbacks in Arkansas. The Razorbacks, having one of the toughest schedules in the SEC, but having a bye week before hosting UT, may help the squad gather enough strength to give their old rivals a good fight. Arkansas will have to count on key player defensive end Landon Jackson. If there's going to be any chance to slow down the Texas offense, I think it starts with Landon Jackson. He's got talent, he's got skills, and I think he gets past the line of scrimmage a couple times this game. That being said, Texas is going to play all 4 quarters against a scrappy Razorback squad, and I think UT takes this one 38-20, 8-2, 4-2 in conference. In the final home game of the season, the Texas Longhorns take on the Kentucky Wildcats. I believe that if the Wildcats win early in their season, they will be a ranked team coming into this game, making this game a must-watch. In their second ever game against each other, Texas has to be careful with this potential trap game. Sark and the Longhorns are going to have to focus on Wildcat defensive tackle Dion Walker. Walker accumulated 7 sacks and led the team in quarterback hurries last season. As I believe that he is going to make some plays, the UT offensive line is going to tire him out quickly alongside the rest of the Wildcat defense. And the Longhorns are going to take this one 27-21, 9-2, 5-2 in conference. I believe the best part of Texas moving to the SEC is the return of this famous and hateful rivalry between the Longhorns and the A&M Aggies. The Aggies will be hosting the Longhorns at Kyle Field, and you best believe that this is going to be one of the most watched games of the season. Everyone will need to tune into this game. This is going to be a nasty battle in the trenches, and the key player for the Aggies will be the collective group effort of their defensive line. The play from them will make or break this game. And if they can make Quinn Ewers uncomfortable, I believe that they can pull off the win at home. I predict that this is going to be a game that goes to overtime, and when it matters most, I think the defense for A&M is going to be able to stop the Longhorns, and they get to upset the Longhorns 41-35 in OT. The Longhorns will finish the regular season 9-3, 5-3 in conference. To wrap things up, I believe that UT only loses in close games, and their wins come in favorable fashion. This UT squad is uber talented, and they definitely deserve a spot in the new expanded college football playoff at the end of the season. UT will make some noise, and the nation will be watching. I hope the best for the Longhorns this season, and if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Until next time, peace.